what are our contract classifications? First, we call a contract an express. One type of contract is an express contract, meaning that the terms are actually discussed and agreed upon. Okay, and express doesn't necessarily mean in writing. It could certainly be a verbal contract, but both sides agree to whatever's in the contract. For example, I'll pay you, $5, even if you go to a rummage sale, I'll pay you $5 for that old jacket that's there. And the person says, yes, I'll accept $5. Boom. We have a contract. Okay. And as soon as we pay the money and receive the jacket, then it's an executed contract or a completed contract. So that's expressed. Okay. Implied in fact, conduct rather than discussion. And the thing, these happen, quite often, and that is you take your dog to the vet and there's no contract up front or anything. You might, if it's an appointment, or just a checkup or something like that, you might have a pretty good idea what's going on maybe ahead of time, and that in fact may be more of a typical contract. But if you're taking them in, you got porcupine quills. Well, the doc's going to take out the porcupine quills, okay, and you're going to pay them. You're going to pay the doc for doing that. Again, you didn't discuss anything up front. It's just implied, right, that you're going to complete your end of the contract and pay the doc for his or her services. Okay, whether you go to the dentist, a doctor, any types of services, like that, nothing written up in front, or, no estimate, none of those types of things, in order to make that contract. It's an implied situation. An implied in law contract is one party unduly enriched at the expense of another. That happens when you might receive a benefit from somebody's work or efforts. You had an opportunity to stop them. Maybe they did it to your place erroneously, but you didn't, okay? And you benefited from that, okay? Just as a real simple example, maybe the neighbor kid is you're supposed to mow the neighbor's lawn but gets goofed up and mows your lawn, and you saw him as soon as he started the lawnmower. You could have yelled at him and said, wait, what are you doing? But you didn't. You thought, I'm going to get a free lawn mowing out of this, and he mows your lawn. You might in fact owe him, the $10 for mowing the grass. Okay, and that would be like an implied in law, because otherwise you'd be unduly enriched. You'd have had a service performed for you that you could have stopped, okay, and you didn't, and so you were unduly enriched. And so the court might impose an implied in law contract and force you to pay him. So contract enforcement, right? A contract that is enforceable is just one that the court will uphold the validity of, right? An unenforceable contract is maybe a party has a justifiable reason for noncompliance, and that could be any number of things, and we'll, I think, talk about some of those as we go along, impracticability and some things like that. A valid contract is one that has all the essential requirements, and we'll talk about those. A void is one that lacks, of course, those things. And voidable, and sometimes that's written right into the contracts, that a contract might be voidable by one party or the other, maybe because of some circumstances, or maybe not, maybe just because. Okay. Contract performance, and this is sort of important. A contract is executed when both promises have been made. Okay, the contract itself is executed. Okay, a contract is executory if the promises are not yet performed. Okay, and sometimes this gets to be a little bit confusing, because one party may have completed their side of it and truly their performance is executed, okay, but the contract itself is still executory. It's not completed because the other side hasn't completed their performance, right? When both parties complete their performance, then it's an executed contract done. And performance becomes very important in more complex transactions. The coffees examples that I've used, or, go to a restaurant or fill up your tank with gas and those types of things. Performance is still important, but it's pretty simple, right? You sign a contract to build, like the building that we're putting up here on campus. That gets to be a lot more complex, and what becomes full performance or 90% or whatever. And we talk about different levels of performance here in a while. So breach of contract, somebody doesn't finish, right? Somebody doesn't get done, okay? And they breach their side of it. Okay. One of the things that has to be done is that damages have to be mitigated. So let's say I cut a load of firewood because Joe's going to buy that load of firewood from me for $150. And Joe, when I go to deliver the firewood, won't pay me the $150. So Joe's breached his contract. Well, I can sue Joe for the $150, but the thing I probably got to do first is try to sell the wood otherwise. Let's say I put an ad in the paper, and somebody calls me up, and instead of giving me $150, they give me $120. Okay, I'm also out the cost of the ad. Let's say that's $10. So, I netted $110. Joe was going to pay me $150. What I could go after Joe for is actually $40 in that case, right? Because I mitigated the damages. He doesn't owe me the full $150, but I did mitigate the damages. Okay. Oftentimes there's negotiated settlements. One party maybe cannot complete their end of it for whatever reason, and the parties kind of sit down and they say, well, understand, so let's work something out. And that happens often. Contracts that can't be finished or one party breaches oftentimes go to arbitration. Again, employment contracts are more and more often contain arbitration clauses. So now one party breaches, it ends up going to an arbitrator maybe to decide. There can be damage awards. One of the awards or one of the decisions, or either through a court or through an arbitrator or whatever, might be specific performance. Okay, it could be specific performance. So I buy some shares of stock from Pete, and I write the check out to Pete, and Pete has the check, but Pete hasn't delivered the shares of stock to me. Yeah, I sue him. The judge could, in fact, order that Pete deliver the shares of stock. Okay, maybe the stock had gone up and Pete sold it and made some money. The judge might force him to go back and repurchase the stock, even at a higher level possibly, and actually deliver the stock then to me. That would be specific performance. The rescission is a right to back out of a deal, I guess, but it's a right that's oftentimes contained right in the original deal, where one party might have a right to rescind their performance or rescind their obligation under the contract. You see that there's when people finance homes, they have a right of rescission. When they refinance a home, I should say, they have a right of rescission, meaning that even after they sign the contract and whatnot, there's basically a 3-day waiting period where they can rescind their obligation under the contract. Restitution, right? You may have to make restitution to somebody if your breach actually caused them some harm. Yeah, that's probably a good place to stop for now for part 2.